Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of LGOtv Big Talk. And why Big Talk? Because I fucking hate small talk. Small talk is the worst. And not only is it the worst, we are at times right now that matter, where getting involved, we're talking about the things that actually make a difference, is going to move the needle. What a terrible expression, but it's going to move the needle on the issues we care about, like, getting the needles, getting the vaccines for coronavirus, the thing that has taken us all off the playing field for this year. And today's guest knows a thing or two about getting off the playing or getting off the bench and getting onto the playing field. And so today I've brought on Jackie Huba, and it's an important day to do this because I'm actually the chair of a congressional campaign, which has its primary today on this very day. So this is a very vote-centric day for me. So Jackie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Laura.
Jackie, so you're the author of, So you're the author of 4 best-selling books. 3 of them are on customer loyalty. Your book, Monster Loyalty, How Lady Gaga Turns Her Followers into Fanatics. It took the world by storm. And it allowed us all to think about this question of who are we paying attention to when we're thinking about marketing, when we're thinking about driving customers, when we're thinking about getting people, turning them from just being interested to being fanatics. You talk about this idea of it's not the 54 million followers or 45 million followers that she has. It's the 1 million super crazy monsters, the ones that are all in for everything. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you went from Lady Gaga into the world of drag, how you became a drag queen, and how you started this incredible organization called Drag Out the Vote. But I want to start way back in the beginning. And even before you got interested in Lady Gaga, where are you from? How does a person go from just being like a kid to doing a TED Talk that they do in drag? Talk us about the beginning here.
That is a great question. I grew up in a really, really small town, an hour north of Pittsburgh. My dad was a steel worker for his whole life. My mom was a secretary. Like we were very middle class. And I don't, it's interesting. Like when I look back at like some of the things that I think of that later it makes sense to me is like, I was always this really weird kid who liked theatrics. I was in the drill team. I liked to put skits on in my backyard. I liked to do dance routines for the cars driving by the neighborhood. And I didn't realize, but back then, like this love of music and costume and performance was just this sort of side thing that was just something I did. And then weirdly also, that's Pittsburgh Steeler territory, right?
Yes.
And so I grew up in the 70s when we won 4 Super Bowls. And I was this crazy kid in front of the TV with my homemade terrible towel where I ironed the letters terrible towel on my mom's yellow, towel. And I had my Steeler beanie and I was sitting in front of the TV. I remember being 9 years old and like the fervid passion I had for this team. Like now later, writing all these books on loyalty and like talking about like Lady Gaga and this loyal fan base, like I understood what it meant to be a super fan of something from like the smallest age.
It's so funny. You brought such a visual image to me of like doing the dance routine as the cars drove by, because I remember growing up in Miami doing that, and I totally forgotten about that whole thing. I mean, forget about the fact that I had absolutely and still have absolutely no rhythm whatsoever and can't dance to save my life. But we have so much confidence when we're kids. Like you have confidence when you're a kid that you're out there dancing and it's freaking awesome. But then what happens to us as we get older? Where does it go?
It's really funny. For the Fiercely You book that I wrote called the subtitle is Be Fabulous and Confident by Thinking Like a Drag Queen. I had to do a lot of research into confidence because I didn't understand how we lose it either. And what you learn a lot, especially for young women, is when they hit puberty. So young girls, especially ones in sports, very confident. And then you hit puberty and then something happens. And we start to become very self-conscious about our bodies. We start to really pay attention to messaging that's coming from everywhere that just says, oh, you have to look like this. You have to be this perfect this. And I'm not that. And so you start to see confidence levels go down from there. And I think that they can go down. But I think that's where for young women, where we lose it.
So were you one of the cool kids in school?
Oh no, I was one of the weirdos. We definitely one of the weirdos. I mean, I remember, like we were the kids who, okay, totally dating myself, but I grew up in the early 80s. So I graduated in 1983, right? So, we were the weird kids who were like kind of smart, but kind of weird. Like we were big Devo fanatics. Like we were the biggest
yes.
Devo fanatics you've ever seen. We dressed up. We came to Pittsburgh. We slept out for tickets back when you used to do that. I don't know if people still don't do that anymore. We went to the concert in yellow suits that said Devo.
Did you have the planter hat?
We did not have the planters, but we had we took yellow vinyl tablecloths and made full on yellow suits.
Nice.
And we wore our drill team white boots, and then it said Devo. We sprayed our hair like yellow. We were in the second row. Like we were the insane weirdos. And I remember the next day we were so happy. We wore our Devo shirts into school, and in the cafeteria before school started, we put Devo on the jukebox. There was actually a jukebox, and the rough kids, the bad kids, came and unplugged the jukebox and spit on us.
Wow. Did they put like Iron Maiden on instead? Or
they just were like, you guys are so like weird. Like we were the weird creative weirdos.
Yeah. But it's so interesting. I remember those days where you would go to a concert, like you had to get the t-shirt because you had to wear the t-shirt to school the next day to show that you wore the that you went to the concert, right? Like there's the uniform that we were in. Like in my school, there were the rough kids, and then there were like the druggy kids, and there were the the band geeks and the theater kids and everyone else. But I remember the drug kids they would wear like their like black concert t-shirts with their acid wash skinny, they weren't skinny jeans, but they were like, they basically were skinny jeans. And then they would have those suede boots with the fringe that came up to the knees, like the tie-up boots. Do you remember, did kids have those in Pittsburgh? Yeah, they had them everywhere, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was honestly so long ago. I don't even remember the fashions that the other kids wore. But yeah, I mean, it was really interesting just to kind of see the different groups. And like, that was a really weird moment where it was like something that we were really passionate about. I remember like, wow, people don't like us for being who we are and liking what we like and playing a very innocent song. And that was a very weird moment. Back before there were online trolls, you were like, oh, that's right. People can be trolls to your face.
Yeah, people are pretty mean. But each of those groups, like as we're talking about the groups, I do think that they had uniforms. Like we all had uniforms. And one of the things that you talk about in your TED Talk, which I would encourage anybody who is listening to this to go watch because it has the greatest reveal in TED Talk history. You talk about how RuPaul said that we're all born naked and the rest is drag. And I want you to talk a little bit about that concept, because what you talk about in the talk is that all of us, me, you, the mailman, people, men and women who go to offices, we're all in drag every single day.
Yeah, I mean, RuPaul has written many books, and he's so interesting because he's kind of a spiritual guru. But that moment where you understand that you are playing a character in this world all the time, and you don't even think about it, or you might think of it as a persona. We talk about it as a persona, right? So like you are always in drag. Drag is literally just a character, persona that you have on, usually for entertainment, obviously, right, for the stage or the screen or whatever. But when we walk out into the world, we have drag on, and it's not just what we wear, it's really how we act. So like in a professional setting, you might have a professional persona, or with your kids, you might have a more nurturing persona, but these are personas. And for me, like understanding what drag is a persona that you consciously put on, but that it can be used for confidence. Because when you look at what drag queens are, I mean, drag queens are just these amazing, bigger than life figures who they're not afraid of anything. They own who they are. They're just supremely confident. And I just got into loving drag at a moment where I just realized, why am I a 47-year-old woman who should be very confident, has achieved a lot, and just wasn't? And I just wanted that. And that's how I gravitated towards them.
So you were 47, you had a stable job, you had a stable life. On the outside, everyone thought you were successful, and you weren't. It just didn't feel great. I mean, the whole premise of my book, as you know, Limitless, is about how like success doesn't always equal happiness. And you're like, you were in that moment where you were super limited by the list that everybody else told you to pursue. So you're on your couch and you're flipping around the TV and you find RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah. Yeah, I found RuPaul's Drag Race, and it was funny because it was very hard for me to isolate like why I wasn't happy. I just had this like really weird feeling of I've been doing marketing things for the last 25 years, you know, at IBM, all these agencies, all this marketing, helping marketers be better, understanding word of mouth, customer loyalty, and I just done it over and over again. And it didn't feel groundbreaking. It just was like, okay, but there should be something bigger. Like there should be something more. And that's when I stumbled upon RuPaul's Drag Race and I just became obsessed. It was the same obsession that I had when I started to understand who Lady Gaga was. It was that same obsession. I was fascinated with these people who were bigger than life, and like they took chances. They were so confident in who they were. They liked to go big. Like I just love just tackling anything, getting through adversity. Not that they're not fearful, but they just power through it. And I was just so fascinated. And of course, they looked amazing and they're very sparkly and awesome.
So there's this idea like fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it and everything will be fine. And I've always bristled against that because I think when you fake it till you make it, you're so busy faking it that you're not even actually understanding what it is to know if you're going to like it once you get there. And sometimes you're so busy faking it that you're missing all the stuff that's happening around you. That's the hard stuff. I mean, I know when I first started working in the White House, I'd walk in one day and there were all these like bright, young, and hungry, you know, perfectly polished prep school graduates with their, you know, perfect suitcases, you know, briefcases and their suits. And I'm literally wearing like my mom's like dynasty suits from the 80s. Like I'm these hand-me-downs. And I didn't know what to do. And they'd walk in with their New York Times or their Wall Street Journals all dog-eared and highlighted. And they'd sit at the desk waiting for the meetings to start writing ideas and ideas and ideas. And I was like, I don't have any ideas. I don't know what to write. So I would like try to write stuff. And meanwhile, while I was trying to pretend to be them, I missed all of the conversations happening around me, the relationships and the deals that were being made and how people were acting. And once I got there, I didn't really know even how to be. So I was still continuing to be somebody else. But the thing about what you talk about with drag and finding your inner drag queen, which I think is so beautiful, is that you used it not as a vehicle to fake it, to become Lady Trinity, but as a vehicle to find the person who you were inside. So you weren't faking it till you made it. You were becoming who you really were in there, but you were just using this vehicle as a way to access somebody that you couldn't normally access.
Yeah, I think that's a really great explanation of the idea of faking it till you make it. You're exactly right. It is that, like, I think a lot of people are kept back from the things that they want to do just because they're afraid, because they just can't envision that they could do these things that are, you know, that have risk associated with them, or maybe a perceived risk with doing it. And so it just stops them and it blocks them. And I kind of felt like that for a long time, that there are things I wanted to do, but I was just too afraid to do it, whether it's imposter syndrome, like, who am I? I'm not qualified to do those things, or no one will listen to me if I do these things. So the psychology behind this persona is one of the concepts is called power priming your brain, which is you imagine yourself as a powerful being, and then you start acting that way. So you either channel someone else, like a lot of people, like in the beginning, I used to channel Lady Gaga. And I remember this story in the book where, when I was researching her for Monster Loyalty, where in her first tour for the Monster Ball, she really funded a lot of that tour herself. And she knew the way that, because she was just starting. So it wasn't like Live Nation was funding her, right? So she's starting slow. She's building, and she's putting all the money she's earning back into the tour. The tour got so big, and she was bankrupt. And she had put $3 million into this tour. She just kept funneling the money back. But at some point she could have just stopped and been like, what am I doing? Like, I have no money. But it was so successful that then the accolades came, and then Live Nation, her next tour, was funded by. So she put everything on the line because she believed in what she was doing, and she knew it would be successful, and it was her creative vision, and no one was telling her what to do or dampening it in any way. And I just love this idea of just totally believing in what you're doing and having the guts to say, I'm going to do this because it's going to be fantastic, and just not just hoping, but knowing that it's going to work.
But where does that knowledge come from? Like, there's this whole, famous story about her, about how, she had a boyfriend who kept telling her she was never going to amount to anything. And she was like, one day you're going to walk into a coffee shop and my music's going to be playing there and everywhere else you go. Is there some delusion that you have to have? I mean, like, how do you just have that when everybody around you is a naysayer? Because, a lot of times we'll tell somebody our big, crazy, audacious plan and they'll be like, oh my God, you can't do that. That's too scary. But what they really mean is, oh my God, I can't do that. That'd be too scary for me. But we hear it as that's too scary for you. And then we never do it. So how do you, where do you have to find that fierceness to just say, I'm going to be in every coffee shop and I'm going to haunt you for the rest of your fucking life? Like, where does that come from?
Some of it is delusion. I mean, I've interviewed so many drag queens who have told me it is an element of delusion. You are deluding yourself into the fantasy of what you believe. Now, that's not so easy in practice. Like for me, when I thought about, I was obsessed with drag queens. I didn't know why. I was obsessed with this transformation into another persona. I was like, this has got to be a book because I think people need to understand like how relevant this idea is for everyday life.
Yes.
Right. And so I was like throwing myself into it. So what I did is I would just take little steps. Right. So I made this like weird, someone said, if you're going to write this book about drag and how adopting a persona like a drag queen could help you with everyday confidence, like you have to do it. And it took me a while. I was like,
oh, shit.
I was like, wait, what? They're like, well, first of all, anyone can do drag. And I think a lot of people don't know that. It isn't just a gay cisgender man does drag. Like anyone can do drag. Women can do drag. Everyone can do drag. And you can do it in any gender or no gender.
Shit, we're all doing drag right now. So,
totally
get on stage.
But yes, as a speaker, we actually do drag.
Yes.
But what I was going to do was actually develop a drag character, learn how to do all the drag makeup, the theatricality, the lip sync, and then go perform. And my drag mother, who is my drag mentor, who's the top drag queen in Austin, she's like, yeah, you're going to be in my show. And like, let's go. And so she came over to my house for hours and taught me how to do the makeup and the hair and all of it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so like I used this excuse, I'm researching for the book. That's why I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. When truly it was this like, it was a masterclass in learning confidence. But I could use that like the excuse of, I'm just researching for the book, because it would be too weird. It would be too weird if I just said, I'm going to be a drag queen. That's just odd. But I used that excuse to just learn so much about this idea of putting on a persona. And so, performing in the local club here, scared to death, right? So I was so afraid. I always had backup dancers so I wouldn't be by myself. Like it was a little crutch, but I'm like, so what? So what? I feel like Beyonce. I look fierce.
I love that there's like hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, drag queen therapy. There's all these different kinds. You went to drag queen therapy to find your confidence. So yeah, I've never really thought about the idea of having backup dancers behind me on stage, but boy, that would really be awesome. Like you can't help but feel like Beyonce. You can't help but feel like a fierce queen when you've got backup dancers.
Backup dancers have one job. It is to make you look good. Truly, it's their one job.
I'd be like Mariah Carey though, where like I don't move because I have absolutely no rhythm or control of my limbs through time and space, and they would just be picking me up and lifting me around the stage. Yes. Like, that's how my backup dancers would. That would be their job. This would not be like J-Lo or Madonna. Like I'd be like Taylor Swift. Like I trying to dance, but like it's definitely not going to be the strongest thing I bring to stage. As my stylist once said, I got on stages and I was like, I saw videos of myself. I didn't love how I looked. And so I hired the stylist and she was like, I was like, I can't dress myself out of a paper bag. And she's like, that's okay, Laura, your talents lie elsewhere. So yeah.
Totally. I mean, and I have a stylist too, and I never felt as fierce as when she started styling me. But I don't dance either, by the way, Laura. So when people watch my TED Talks, please do not expect like a dancer. I am not a dancer. I fake it. But I look so much better because they're behind me and they're lifting and they're doing all these things. And it just adds to the performance value, even though, you know, I can't dance.
So that's the thing about drag queens, right? So you have your pageant queens, you have your impersonation queens. Like there's all these different types of queens. There's muscle queens, there's, you know, femme queens. There's so many different types of queens. But what they do is they find the thing about them that's amazing, and then they drag that up, right? They really intensify that piece of themselves so that you focus on that. It's like, don't look at the right hand, focus on the left hand. And so it's all just sort of illusion and magic and beauty and confidence. And they're so living into that persona. I mean, is that sort of where, I mean, is that really the root of it? Is you figure out what the thing is that you just can crush, and you push that, and the rest is sort of decoration?
I gotta say, this exploration of literally saying, I'm going to create another persona is mind-blowing, because you're like, what is it that I can bring? It's kind of just what you said, right? So if you are a trained dancer, you know, maybe if you were going to do another persona, you know, you would gravitate towards things that are very dance oriented. You're showcasing that talent. If you're a singer, you know, if you're a comedian, if you have comedic talents. But as those of us who are not trained in any of those things, we, you know, as a drag artist, you still have to find, what is that thing that you can do? What is that thing that you can showcase? And who is this person? You know, are they pretty? Are they goofy? Are they funny? What are they? That naming them, giving them an identity, that whole, and I talk about it in Fiercely You, like some ideas of how to build that thing. But and the first concept you have might not be the one that you end up with later. Like when I first started, I was like, oh, okay, I love theatricality. I love the backup dancers. You know, even though I'm not a dancer, I'm going to go that route. And that was kind of fun, but it didn't feel real. And it wasn't till I did this show that was right after the 2016 election. It was all female drag queens in Austin. It was called Pussies Grab Back America. I will say I run a nonpartisan organization. Let's just say that. But I saw this song. It was a comedy song. It was called 8 Miles, what's it called? 8 Miles Wide. And it's by Storm Large, and she's a comedian. And literally the chorus is, my vagina is 8 miles wide. Everybody can come inside. It literally is just this really hilarious story. And it's the first time I'd ever done a comedy number. I loved it. And I was like, oh, this whole time.
Yes.
Comedy, because I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. Like I just am a goofball, but yet I didn't focus on that for some reason.
Oh, yes.
And so it evolved. And now if I ever did any more performances, I would definitely do comedy, because I can lead into the comedy, because I'm not afraid to look stupid or goofy or funny. That's more of who I am. But look how long that took me. I mean, it took me a while before I figured it out.
Was there a moment when you were on stage and you said a funny line and then somebody laughed, and were you just like, oh yes, this is it? Was there like, did you know it immediately, or did it take a little time after you did it to figure that out?
Well, as a drag queen, we don't really speak.
Or when you like did a funny thing, or like made a face, or like camped it up, or like, but did you know it on stage immediately while you were doing it? Or did it?
Well, here's what's funny. That performance, the Pussies Grab Back performance, is on YouTube. So Lady Trinity's YouTube channel, you can go watch this.
We're going to put all these things in the show notes, and you can just spend the next 3 days binging on Lady Trinity.
I felt really good delivering it. And people were really responding to it, you know, in the crowd. It was kind of a small club, a small crowd. And I was performing, and then I felt really good. And then I hit it, and you'll hear this guy at the end, and he goes, "You killed it!"
Yes.
I fucking did.
Yes.
I fucking did. And that was the first time of all those performances that even my TED Talk, I was like, oh, okay. I'm down the right path of like who Lady Trinity is.
Yes.
And it felt so good. And that's when I realized, like, but it took a while. It wasn't just immediate.
Yes. I can so relate to that in my own journey as a speaker, because I thought when I wrote Limitless, it was a business book. And it took me like 6 months after it came out to realize that it's personal development and self-help. And it took me even longer to realize that I shouldn't be pitching my talks to business audiences, but I should be pitching them to audiences that want transformation. And I should get out there and be raw and vulnerable and human and all of these things. But it took me so long to understand that they weren't looking for perfection on stage. They were looking for human, like human, me, my human, whatever my human is. And for you to find your human. And I love what you said is that it wasn't like Lady Trinity killed it on stage. You were like, I killed it on stage. I fucking killed it. And so you are finding Lady Trinity, but you're still going back to the office, or you're still working with clients. Are you finding Lady Trinity like bubbling out in meetings? Does she want to have equal time?
I will say, like, just talking to so many drag artists, after a while, like the language changes, and then you have to remember to be, a little more professional. But I will tell you that, like, I got so excited about what I was doing, and I was still doing marketing talks, right? So I still was going up on stage feeling like I'm still doing that old thing, kind of bored with it. Like,
yes,
can I fuse these? So I had a meeting organizer who does this great marketing conference. I'd already spoken there before, and I had the Fiercely You book, and I really wanted to speak again. So I asked him, hey, I have a new talk, but I'm going to come out in my drag persona and deliver a talk about how to be a fierce brand based on drag queens building their fierce brand. And some of these it was a really fun, like 5 o'clock keynote. I said, I'm going to try it. I mean, I hate to make you the guinea pig, but absolutely. Nice. And I was so petrified. So the whole premise was that he was going to introduce Jackie, but she was late. So Jackie sent someone in her stead to just warm up the crowd before she got there. Ladies and gentlemen, Lady Trinity. And that was it. And out of the back of the ballroom, the doors open, and here comes Lady Trinity in this giant...
was there a smoke machine? Please tell me there was a smoke machine.
No smoke machine. No smoke machine. But this is a marketing audience, right? Like, these are all marketing managers and executives.
Who have sat through talks all day long.
All day.
Right.
It is a full day of hour-long talks from, everybody. And it's Demi Lovato confident, right? And so boom, and she's sequin catsuit, and she's coming down the aisle, and it is a full-on drag show. And the people's faces are like, what?
Where are we?
Yes. And
can I expense this?
There was this iMag, and I remember like this iMag cameras, like I'm walking down the aisle and I turn around, I just hit it, and it's like boom. And I was so nervous. And then I came up on stage, and I'm like performing as if it's a drag show. And after like a minute, I'm looking out like I'm lost, and I'm like, yo, DJ. And that was the first time Lady Trinity ever spoke. So she had to have a voice. And I was like, oh my God, what does Lady Trinity sound like?
Yeah. What does she sound like?
She sounded Southern and really sassy.
Okay.
I was like, yo, DJ, turn off the music. What's going on, you guys? Is this not the Divas of Drag show? And I literally planted a woman in the front. She goes, no, this is the blah, blah, blah marketing conference. I was like, oh, hell no. I said, I'm in the wrong place. I said, I can't remember the line I used, but I was like, bye, Felicia, I'm out of here. And I ran off the stage to complete silence for like just 20 seconds. Came back on, and I had a screenshot of me and then Lady Trinity. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reintroduce myself. I'm Jackie Huba, and that is Lady Trinity, my fierce persona. And I want to teach you now how to build a fierce persona for your company by the lessons I've learned from studying drag queens.
You must have had the rapt attention of every single person in that room.
Uh-huh.
Amazing.
But I mean, I had no idea if this corporate audience was going to, how they would react to this. If they just thought, this is just weird. This is strange. They loved it. I mean, I afterwards I had a line, I did like a little meet and greet afterwards. I was signing some books, and everyone was like, I cannot, like, this was the most, so it was so validating. Actually, Scott McCain was there. And Scott McCain, for your listeners who don't know, is just like Pinnacle of Speakers. And he was like, that was just I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. And to me, I was like, you've never seen anything like it? Yes. But, and also like I delivered the messages, but it was also in a very different and entertaining way. And you know, a lot of what I talk about is word of mouth. And I think I got a lot of word of mouth from it. It was just so different.
Yes.
And it got my juices going because it was creative. It was different. It wasn't that same old talk, that same old delivery, and that same old suit.
Yes.
It was a lot of work and very different, but it was so gratifying.
It was, as Scott McCain would say, iconic. Right. Scott McCain has written a book for our listeners called Iconic, where he talks about how some brands become just so legendary in the minds of their customers because they are not just good. They're not just great. They're iconic. And so and Scott McCain's been around for, you know, ever. He's seen everything that there is to be seen. So the fact that he said that he's never seen anything like this, and he lives in Vegas, that he's never seen anything, you know, that's like being Catholic and getting praise from the Pope. I mean, that's like a big deal.
And I was in Vegas. So I just also felt like the environment of being in Vegas, like I also felt a little bit more licensed to be like, anything happens in Vegas, you come to a conference, hey, you're going to see a drag queen on stage delivering a talk about branding.
So does what happens in Vegas stay in Vegas, or did you take this talk out and then do it again for other people? Like, is this now a thing that you do?
I actually, that was the only time I've done it. It was recent. So it was a little bit right before the pandemic, like right before, and it has to be the right audience. And let me tell you something, it is a lot of work. I literally had to have an assistant, had to have a makeup artist. I mean, I can do a little bit of drag makeup, but not like on the stage. So I had a makeup artist. I had 2 suitcases. I had to borrow stuff from drag queens to wear, like I don't have so it was a lot of work. Actually I did have a talk, November of last year with full backup dancers that had gotten moved and then canceled because of the pandemic. So it was going to be even a bigger production with backup dancers, full on backup dancers.
That's incredible. I think there's like a whole other budget in the conference for that kind of, like you're like part of the entertainment, not necessarily the speakers.
Right.
Okay. So you're working with your clients, you're finding Lady Trinity is kind of peeking her head into everything you're doing. And she's changing the language that you're using, the lexicon, the words you're using, maybe even how you're promoting yourself, how you're starting to market, you know, what you think you're capable of doing. And then 2016 happens and you look around and you're getting a little righteously indignant about the state of the world. Because I remember you giving me a call and being like, I have this idea. So you start Drag Out the Vote.
Yeah. 2016 was, life-changing, I think, for a lot of people. And I have never been someone who's been involved in any way in politics ever. I think my history of getting involved in democracy was literally voting every 4 years. That's all.
So you didn't even vote in primaries and in midterms. You were, wow.
Nope.
No. I will cut a trip short to come home and vote for an uncontested primary for dog catcher.
Yeah.
I'm such a democracy nerd.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're voting every 4 years and that's it.
That's it. I mean, I didn't understand so much about how our government works, how even local government works. I was never tied that what I could do, to even vote in an off-year election or a local election, how that affected me. Like I didn't make the connections for whatever reason. Like now when I look back at it, it's hard to even comprehend how I was that way, how I just didn't connect with it.
I mean, 100 million people didn't vote in 2016. So I think you're not alone. But there's a moment where Lady Trinity is inside you going, oh, hell no.
Yeah. And so when I realized after the election that 100 million people didn't vote and could have made a difference in so many different ways, I was, again, this weird, like I was possessed. I was like, okay, all right. Now what do we do? I have to get involved because clearly not getting involved, I felt so guilty, one, of not doing more my whole life, but also not doing more in that election. So I started to get involved in a local advocacy group called Indivisible, which is a national group, the Austin chapter of that. And it really is, getting involved with your local officials, your senator, your congressperson, and, speaking up for what you believe in. And so I learned a lot about organizing. I learned a lot about just how local government works, all the way from your mayor and judges, the whole way up to presidential elections. And I was on the board I was in my congressional district, Indivisible, as well as Austin. We have 6 congressional districts in Austin. Had no idea. So Indivisible Austin is over those 6 congressional districts. Like, we're very gerrymandered, right? So my congressional district goes the whole way to San Antonio and then out. And so I, got to understand what gerrymandering is and how these politicians are selecting the voters that they want, and the voters are not represented. So yeah, I learned so much.
The more you're learning, you're getting more and more pissed off.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And also, like, okay, I just want to learn more, but then how can I make a difference? And so after doing that for a couple of years in 2019, I was just like, okay, this is great in Austin, but I don't know. I think this is where I look back to, like, what would Lady Gaga do? Could I do something bigger? Could I do something national? Like, what would help in 2020? Well, obviously, what would help in 2020 is more people registered, more people out to vote. So I don't care who you vote for. I don't care, what you're doing, but at least be registered, at least exercise that right to vote. If we can get more people voting, then, hopefully the outcome that everyone is looking for will happen. And so that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do something national. There's a lot of voter registration organizations out there, a lot of get out the vote. What can I bring to it? No one had ever mobilized drag queens.
So before you get into that, I wanted to talk about this one thing that you said about being nonpartisan, because I am, as you know, very active in politics. I raise a lot of money for candidates. I'm as I mentioned in the beginning, the chair of a congressional campaign right now in my own district. I've started off my career in the White House. I'm clearly on one side of the aisle. However, I've been telling people throughout this campaign that I don't actually care who they vote for. I really don't. I don't care if you vote for the Republicans, for the Independents, for the Democrats. Your vote is actually sending a message to it actually helps you to get representation in the future. But so if you don't vote for somebody and they do worry about that group of people because they weren't active. So I think I just want to stress the fact that this organization is nonpartisan, and that getting people mobilized to vote isn't you trying to get someone elected or someone defeated. It's actually getting representation for an entire community of people who I think I heard are 1 in 5 LGBTQ individuals are not active, are not registered to vote. I mean, that's a huge number of people.
Yes, that is the right statistic. 1 in 5 are not registered or don't vote. And yeah, this whole, like, again, we are a 501c3 nonpartisan nonprofit. But, what I think is happening is that there's a lot of people who they have issues they really believe in, but unless you exercise your right to vote, you're not making that voice heard. So young people, right? Like, if you're someone who cares about, let's just say, climate change, if young people are the lowest turnout, they've always been the lowest turnout in terms of age group, right? And so if you're a young person who cares about the planet that you are going to be living in, my God, why would you not want to vote in officials who care about the issues that you care about, which is the planet that you're going to be living on? So it was just always mind blowing to me that folks were not voting for their own best interests, and they were just not coming out and making their voices heard. So we as a nonpartisan voter registration organization, we're just trying to register everyone as we can. For us, the great thing about drag today is that 10 years later, fans of drag, it's a massive group, right? It's not very homogeneous. So we definitely the LGBTQ community, definitely young people, definitely there's a lot of women who watch the show from day one. There's always been women watching the show. So it's not, it's not just the LGBTQ folks we're focused on, but anyone who is a fan of drag. And luckily for us, that's a huge audience that we are going after with our drag artists.
Yeah, well, I will come out right now and just say I am a drag super fan. I am a super fan. I watch it with my son every week, and we watch not just Drag Race. We watch Canada's Drag Race. We watch we watch Drag Race UK. We can't wait for Drag Race Holland. That's going to start in a couple of weeks. We watch the All Stars. We've been watching Las Vegas. Like we watch all of it. And I do think that it is, what I thought was really interesting is like when you watch Drag Race, the commercials, there are commercials that are obviously skewed towards a certain audience, but there are commercials for everyone. And if you just watch the commercials, it's really clear how wide the appeal is of Drag Race. And, they really are becoming, the next great superstar. I mean, some of these drag queens, even the ones that don't win RuPaul's Drag Race, they have 1 million followers on social media. That's a massive amount of influence. So you create Drag Out the Vote as a way to say, where are, these pockets of people who are not active, where are they going? And can we start registering to the vote at actual drag shows?
Yeah, I mean, it started in August of 2019 and immediately to get scale. So this is just me, little old me thinking like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to start this national organization. I've never been in politics before. I don't even know how to start a nonprofit. No idea how to do that.
And then you call me and I'm like, I think you need to dream even bigger.
Yeah, that conversation with you, Laura, was when I was like, is this a little thing that I'm going to do? And you were like, no, this is a big, massive thing you're going to do. And this can totally happen and you're totally going to do it. So go do it. Like truly, you were, thank you. Because it literally propelled me forward. Like, oh my God, I'll figure it out. I'll literally figure it out. The first thing we did so thank you. To get scale, the great thing about Drag Race is because these big drag tours were all over the country and huge theaters and outlets. I partnered with Headcount, who has all these volunteers to register people. We're registering people on, Trixie's tour and Bianca's tour and the Work the World tour. And we're just like cranking through it. And my dream, although drag racers are amazing and that lent us the credibility and publicity, right? Still, my whole dream with this is like, how do we mobilize drag artists in all 50 states who are local queens, who have their own influence and their own audiences and are also superstars? But then after COVID hit, when all the drag tours are canceled and everything's canceled, it's like, oh, okay. Everything's digital. Now we got to switch gears. Now we got to start to move into this 50 state. Like, how do we get all the drag artists in all 50 states? And that's when we started the Drag Ambassador program. It actually just launched August 1st. And we recruited drag artists, drag kings, drag queens, like whatever your drag expression is. And we're almost up to all 50 states. We have about over 250 almost that are now ambassadors for us, registering voters in their cities and towns, mostly online, right, using their social media and our registration link. Some of them are doing a little bit of in-person, but not much because it's, it's kind of scary out there. But now, we were training them as digital organizers. We did a training with Planned Parenthood last night where they're using Outvote and they're texting all of the people in their community, the friends that they know, to register to vote. So this massive power that we've built just by arming these drag artists with tools and all the content and the registration portals is... it's amazing. I can't even believe they're out there doing this. It's just overwhelming.
And you were just on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Congratulations.
That was insane. Yeah, we work with Britta Filter, who is
Britta Filter, New York's top entertainer.
She, anyone who watches Drag Race, unfortunately, she's so talented and so sweet and came off in this really bad edit and said a few things and then was edited in a way I just don't appreciate. She is the sweetest, the most amazing, and she is such an activist. And they highlighted her in that segment, right? And it was all about Drag Out the Vote and the Dulce, the comedian, becoming a drag ambassador for Drag Out the Vote. And it was such a weird moment. This was an idea that I talked to you about a year ago, and then we were on The Daily Show.
So that's incredible to me. And I'm so keyed up about Wonder Hell, right? You're like, oh my God, it's wonderful. It's amazing. So much attention. It's so great. And also this could be so huge. And I feel this burden, this potential to make it even bigger because I'm looking around and I'm the one now who's doing the organization. And yet you were just hitting your stride when COVID hit. And I know this from chairing this congressional campaign. It just got a whole lot more expensive to do this now, because now you have to like take out ads, and you have to show up on social media, and you have to get, earned media and purchase media and all of that. And that all takes so many more resources. Like, it used to be that the person who organized the best, had the best ground game, could have a chance of winning, not just the one who raised the most money. And, we see that right now in this congressional campaign. So I know how much, like, what does it cost to run this organization? I know there's just like a handful of you and you have a ton of volunteers, but what does it cost in order for you to build this to a national movement? What would that be?
Well, we're doing it on a wing and a prayer.
Yes, it's like spit and twine. I know.
I mean, truly, the budget should be hundreds of thousands of dollars to arm everybody with what they need to pay our staff. So our staff is me. We have an agency who has just cut their rates to the bone, who's helping us with our marketing. We have a gentleman who's our fundraising and development person who truly has not been paid in months. I'm just, to be honest with you, like, I haven't taken a salary since March. We have two amazing interns, one of which we promoted, and we're paying him a tiny bit of money to manage the Drag Ambassador program. But fundraising was going so well until March. Sorry, I hate to talk about it like this, but it has been such a challenge. And so what we have been able to do, digital has helped us a bit, because we're not producing things that are concrete, right? We're producing content and we're giving people tools, so, but now we have literally supporting 250 artists out there, and spending so much of our time. We can't hire more staff because obviously we truly should have an organization of like 10 people who are supporting all these drag artists all over the country, but we're just working overtime. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
So, but let's talk about shared sacrifice. Okay. So you're not taking a salary, but that's not the only thing that you're willing to do for this organization. I heard you have a little fundraiser of your own that you got going on.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So,
or maybe Lady Trinity has a little fundraiser of her own that she got going on.
Yeah. So our drag artists, by the way, not only are they helping us register voters, they are helping us fundraise to support all of this. So we have enough money to get to the election to support everything that we're doing. Right.
And in addition to that, these are all drag queens who since March have not been able to make money either, because all of their shows are shut down. So they are giving of their time. They're part of this program. They are, I don't know if if you're paying them or if they're just doing it voluntarily, but they are making a fraction of what they need to survive on their own also. And they're choosing to spend their time focusing on this issue. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yes. If we look at a lot of other organizations, I mean, they would be paying their organizers, right? Yes. You would be paying your organizers in the field to do what we are doing. Our organizers are all doing this for free, right? Amazing. And as you said, as a drag artist, they're not making any money.
The bars are closed. The clubs are closed.
I mean, really what you're doing, you might throw a virtual show together and ask for tips. That's about it. And so if we had budget, we would be paying our organizers absolutely 100%. But right now that is just not the case. So they are helping us do these fundraisers. Each of them has a fundraising page. And because I have a drag persona, look, I am not beyond having people ask for money for me to ask for money. I don't like to ask for money. I'm someone who doesn't like to go to friends and colleagues and be like, hey, give us money. So I issued myself a challenge, or I issued Lady Trinity a challenge, that if she could raise $2,020 by the end of this week, that Lady Trinity might get up in her gig and do a live Zoom lip sync for folks, which is really scary to me. But I'm willing to do it because it's fun and it's for a good cause. And only people who donate can actually see the lip sync. I'm not going to do it for anyone else, only the people who donate. So yeah, she's going to get up in the gig and put on a little show.
All right. So while you were just saying that, because here's who you are as a human, I asked you for what I should put for people to donate. And you were like, oh, dragoutthevote2020.org. That'd be perfect. Well, I just went and I found Lady Trinity's page. So it's here. We're going to put it in the show notes. And I am going to match up to $500 anybody who donates this week for Lady Trinity, because I want to see this show And I want to support the organization anyway. So this is like a perfect excuse for me, not just to support the organization, but I get to see my friend get all dragged up.
Oh
Also.
my God, that's so generous, Laura. That is so generous. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Everyone who is listening, if you are listening now, if you're watching live, if you are listening to some of the replay, I'm gonna just plug the hell out of this on social this week. So give, because you are supporting a good cause and you're going to get a drag show out of it. And it has been a really long ass decade since March. And don't we all need a little entertainment? We need a little entertainment. So yes. Before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the burning question. And I know that it's kind of like asking a mom to pick her favorite children, but tell me who your favorite drag queens are. I want to know.
Oh, that is.
Or you could just tell me who you admire and respect for what particular reason.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to say. You know, there's a lot of drag race queens out there who are amazing for what they do. But I just literally have to bring it back to our two co-chairs from Drag Race because right. So Britta Filter, and people might know Fifi O'Hara.
Yes.
Fifi, he goes by Jeremy now. So Jeremy Carey is a transformation artist. He's on season 4 and All Stars 2. And I think that the thing that's so unique to me about them is I think strangely, like both of them have had this experience on Drag Race, which is not great. And I don't know that a lot of fans truly understand who these two people are. Right. So maybe two of the most not understood drag artists look what they're doing to lend all of their time that they have to help with this organization, to be national co-chairs, they put in so much work that they're not getting paid to do.
And they're asking other people who are also struggling right now to put in time that they're not getting. They're using their capital, which is, I think, sometimes even more expensive.
Yes. And I so appreciate them. And one thing people should look at is Jeremy's Instagram or his social media. On Instagram, he's Fifi O'Hara. On Twitter, he's just Jeremy. But we came to him with this idea to celebrate historic trailblazing women who contributed to, getting the right to vote and being involved in politics. And so he is doing a month-long transformation series where he's cosplaying. He's an amazing transformation artist. He's an amazing cosplayer. He's cosplaying a few folks, and then he's allowing women around the world to be part of this photo series, this transformation photo series, where they are cosplaying women that they have inspired them. And it's a month long. So he did Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't know if you saw that, Laura.
I did see that.
Amazing. But there are artists who have done, Harriet Tubman and Shirley Chisholm and Gloria Steinem and Danica Rome and just women from now, women from long ago who have just been historic figures in our country. And the amount of work that Jeremy has put into this is he took a little project, an idea we had, and he just blew it up, and people are learning about these women for the first time. And so when you ask me who are my favorite drag artists, I just have to look to Britta and Jeremy. Our other co-chair is Marty Gold Cummings as well, who is the first ever drag artist and non-binary person to run for New York City Council. And I just give it up to Marty too. So these are right now my favorite drag artists in the world. That
is incredible. There is nothing that I respect more than somebody who uses their platform to create knowledge and activity within people who might not necessarily otherwise think to do things. And I deeply respect what your co-chairs are doing. I've been loving watching Jeremy's transformations this whole month. It is just absolutely incredible. And what I also love is that if you look at the transformations, you also see every other drag queen in the comments, you go girl, that's amazing. I love it. I love what you're doing. And so they're all really supporting each other and really supporting this movement. So we're basically at the end of our time. Tell the people who are watching get to see these, they get to see these URLs in the bottom, but we'll put them all in the show notes. But for anyone who's listening right now, tell them where they can find you, tell them where they can find Drag Out the Vote.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm JackieHuba.com. I'm Jackie Huba on all social media. Drag Out the Vote is dragoutthevote2020.org. And then on all social media, we are Drag Out the Vote. So you'll find us there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for putting yourself out there, and thank you for Lady Trinity.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for the I really appreciate all of your support. It's been just amazing from the get-go. So thank you, Laura.
Well, I can do what I do because you do what you do. So keep doing what you do. Thanks so much.
Thanks.